Okay, so thank you, Justin, to my invitation to this podcast that we're having here at 101 Data Solutions. Today, we'll be talking about cold calling and the differences that we have between the UK and the US. So, hi, Justin. Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise, Anthony. I appreciate you inviting me on the show. This is a topic I'm super passionate about, so I could probably talk about this all day long, but we'll keep it short and sweet for you today.
Absolutely. So let's start. For those who don't know you in the States and especially in the market in the UK, who is Justin? What does he do? What do you do for a living?
Yeah, man. Justin Middleton, I've been with Phone Ready Leads for like the past 8 months or so, not long. My business partner actually developed it over the past 18 months, and I partnered up with him last year to help build out the sales process and really scale it internally, and then with the calling team that we have now. I joined him. I guess you can call me head of sales. I don't know. Titles really don't mean anything to me, but I'm here every day, changing the culture or attempting to change the culture around cold calling itself. The Phone Ready Leads process is magical. It is a magic wand when it comes to cold calling. And it really allows reps and organizations, right, be 4 to 5 times more efficient with their dials, right? The process is laid out to take lists that you would typically call on, and on any given list, we know there's 2 types of people: those that pick up and those that don't, right? And our process allows you to get to the ones that do really quickly, and then obviously operationalize the other parts of the data to do, the typical sequences that everybody else is doing, right? But we say, instead of treating every prospect exactly the same, let's focus each set of the list so that everybody's jobs we're much more effective in our roles, right? Our reps, when they're doing dials, are having conversations about every 3 to 6 dials consistent, right? Okay. As opposed to like 1 or 2 every 50 dials. And then we say, take the rest of the list and put it in your sequencers, send it to marketing, do what you typically do with it, but just call these people over here, right? And when we do that, it allows us to be much, much more efficient with our time.
Excellent. So let's go a little bit for the basis for those who don't know what actually a cold call is, even though we all had a cold call at least once in our life, as a customer or as an employee. So obviously, I did a little bit of research of when actually cold call started. Apparently, for those who didn't know, it started in 1873 by a guy called John Patterson. He started out with this. He came up with this idea. Then, of course, there was the door-to-door selling. Then the telemarketing kicked in, and what was around the 70s. So, in your experience, how long would a cold call, how long would a pitch be for you?
Yeah, generally the metrics on a cold call is like 1.5 minutes is average. For our reps, we're looking for, when I say 8 to 12 conversations an hour, we're looking for those conversations to be around 3 to 5 minutes is about average for us. Again, it's going to be based on how you develop your script, how you approach the conversation. Because let's face it, a cold call is an interruption, right? You're usually catching people in the middle of something or just randomly, interrupting their day. So if you don't have the script and the approach set up properly, getting through to actually having a real conversation and not just what we call pitch slapping them, right? Getting through to that actual conversation and making sure that they understand what you're saying, right? And can make an educated, decision on whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't, or, whether maybe it'll make sense into the future, or they are not the right person to be speaking to about that, right? When we do cold calls, we're always looking for one of 4 what we call completions. A completion is yes, which is a meeting scheduled, of course. A no, just not a fit for the organization. No. A not me, which is, hey, doesn't make sense for my role, but you may want to talk to this person. Or a not now, right? Hey, we only make these decisions, in Q3 or Q1, or right, filling the future pipeline. Yep.
Yeah. So do you think you need a particular skill to do a cold call?
Yeah, coachability. That's it.
Lots of patience probably as well.
Sure, patience is good, but I think being coachable, everything else will fall into place, right? This whole idea around salespeople are born is a false premise. You can coach anybody up to do anything. The human brain is infinite. It can do whatever it wants. We are all born equal. We are all born able to speak any language that we want, right? We end up speaking whatever language we're around, but you can teach anybody anything as long as they're coachable.
What would you suggest, for example, for those who are listening, for example, what not to do in a cold call? Like, don't start like this way, but have an approach this other way. Especially in the US, maybe you guys have a different approach. What would that be?
Yeah, again, each segment, each industry, each product, each service, each person kind of behaves a little bit differently. So there has to be, a lot of learnings and adjusting. Just be willing to adjust, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to, research the prospect and develop these scripts and go over all of this stuff just to get on a call and then not get anywhere. It's all fluff, right? Actually be genuinely curious, be genuinely interested in what they're saying and just have a normal conversation. I would say the whole idea around, I've got you on the phone, I've got to force you into having a conversation with me by overcoming objections. And then I've got to pitch slap you the first second I get with everything that our company does and how amazing it is. I think that's not a good approach. I don't think it gets you really anywhere. Most people really don't care about your product or service, right? You have to develop a way where you can build some curiosity, develop some trust really quickly, right? And then schedule a next best interaction where it's not a cold call, right? And you can actually speak to them and create space for presenting your product or service to them.
Okay, because usually one of the biggest fears in cold calling, apart from actually being rejected by the person, is what we call as the gatekeeper, the receptionist, the person that's going to pass you to the right person. Any tips or tricks in that? What you would suggest? How would we bypass them?
Yeah, there are gatekeepers that transfer, and there are gatekeepers that don't. I would definitely keep track of that. Run buckets. We call them buckets. If you want to learn what buckets are in more depth, you can go to find the book Outbound Sales No Fluff. My business partner wrote that. It's top 40 best sales books there are. It'll show exactly how buckets work, but there will be gatekeepers that'll transfer, and that's normal. And then there will be some that don't. I typically don't pitch gatekeepers at all. Some of them try to get the 411, and that's the difference between like an operator and a gatekeeper. An operator will just transfer through. Gatekeeper sometimes tries to get the 411. I highly recommend not pitching them. It's a waste of time, really, unless you call them 3 or 4 times and they still won't transfer you over. Then maybe you start developing a relationship with that individual, getting to know a little bit more about them, what their role is as the gatekeeper. They may do a lot more than just answer calls for that individual that you're trying to reach, right? Sometimes they control the calendars. Sometimes they, help inform decisions. So there may be a position where you do try and establish a relationship with that person before getting your foot in the door with the prospect that you're looking for. But in most cases, you should be able to get them to transfer you through with some basic information. Most of the time, I present to them as if I've kind of known them forever. It's a little strategy that I use, right? Like, hey, if I'm calling you as an example and your gatekeeper answers, and I know it's a gatekeeper because I've ran bucketing before and I've called your number and I know that this person picks up before you, right? I keep that note and I'll say, gatekeeper on this particular record. And my approach is, hey, is Anthony running around there today? Right. And it just sounds so nonchalant, like he's expecting my call. Right. And typically they're like, yeah, he is. Hang on one second. Right. Or, yeah, he is. What's this about? I'm trying to introduce myself. You can just a very nonchalant, basic approach to it. And then, like I said, over time, if you see they're consistently blocking you, not transferring you through to at least the voicemail, then you should probably take a step back and build, rapport with that individual.
Okay. So let's say maybe historically, and how has it been used, the cold calling historically? I mean, the strategies, has they modified in time? So obviously the strategy that you use now is a whole different new approach, be a little bit more friendlier, build sort of like a relationship with the gatekeeper. So there's been a transition of new strategies. Have you seen that going on?
Yeah, of course. And like I said, again, each industry is a little bit different. Each segment that you're going to be calling into, there's a slight, nuances to that. Most people don't see that because they work for one company, right? And that's the strategy that they deploy. Now, if they switch companies every 12, 18 months, right, they might see a little bit, some nuances as they transition over. But for us, we called on, 7 different clients every single day. So we see the nuances in real time every single day, right? We launch new accounts every day, just about, at least every week for sure. So we're having to constantly pivot into new segments and obviously deploy new strategies. Has it changed since the start of time? Of course, right? Everything has, right? Think about email back in the 90s, how foreign email was. Like it was a big no to, cold send an email, right?
Exactly.
It was like completely frowned upon, right? But now look at it. Everybody's blasting everybody with emails everywhere. And it's like to the point where nobody really even checks them anymore.
I know.
Right?
It's even like this, like obviously with the technology, email and other forms generate leads, other any way that helps us to get in contact with the person. But do you reckon sending out an email between a cold email and a cold call? Do you think so? Is there a difference?
Of course, 100%. You can't get feedback on a cold email like you can a cold call, right? I can't get one-to-one real-time response on a cold email. I can construct this email and play with the subject lines and the openers and everything about the email that I want. When I send it out, if they don't respond, I have no idea why, right? Maybe they opened it sometimes. And I think that even now, some of that open, tracking is skewed. I think that with the way Apple, the iOS system works now, that even if you see the notification and look at the notification, it counts it as an open now. So I think a lot of that is skewed data. With a cold call, I can literally call you and get one-to-one feedback on, does this make sense to you or not, right? If I'm in my open statement, my introduction into the cold call, and you hang up on me, no, I'm not interested, I got to go, I don't have time, et cetera, whatever it may be, and you hang up on me, that's feedback. Now I know the next time I call you, I need to pivot a little bit because you didn't like my intro, right?
Okay.
So I need to take a slightly different approach to that. But if you never responded to the email, or you respond to the email and you say not interested, what am I supposed to do? Write back and say, oh, why are you not interested? Was it the way I did I put a comma wrong, or you didn't like my subject line? Like, you can't really get feedback on that, right? Makes it really difficult.
True. I mean, well, one of the feedbacks I had, obviously with some customers in the past, one guy told me, I prefer talking only to those who are best at marketing themselves rather than those who can generally offer a valuable service. You think that is correct? Is that a different way of seeing things? So you actually have to market yourself, sell yourself, and then talk about your service.
Sure. That's a good approach. I mean, it's neither right nor wrong, right? That's just his personal preference. That's how his brain responds to certain behaviors. Some people like to be marketed to first, right? Body language, and that's a lot that we're missing as well when we're doing cold calls, or now even in the virtual work world that we're all living in, right? Where, generally we used to do podcasts like this in a room together, and now we're doing them virtually, right? So there's body language, there's chemistry, there's things that are missing that we would be able to play with and read, being in the same room with another individual. But sure, I mean, that's if you don't like the way somebody's talking, or you don't like, the words that they're saying or how they're saying them, or, questions that they're asking you, it's going to be really hard for you to have a conversation with that individual. So if they're not actually presenting themselves as credible or as interesting, right? You're not really going to listen to what they say, whether they pitch slap you or not, or whether they tell you everything about their service or not, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to be like, yeah, get it over with. And then once it's over, you'll be like, nope, not interested, right? And then you're out. So sure, it's an interesting perspective.
Well, then, of course, we also have the person that says, well, if I need a product or a service, I just don't wait that it falls to my lap. I'll just do some market research. I will speak to my procurement team and, see what they could find. So that also could be another way that people, I don't know, companies tend to think, because I have a team of procurement, I'll let them deal with it.
Yeah, of course, there's certain industries, government, right? Government's all about procurement teams. There's, bigger corporations, they'll have procurement teams that you have to go through. And again, they make decisions every, Q4 or Q1, or they have a strategy around that. And that's fine. If you want to run true market dominance in your industry and your space, you have to be top of mind for those individuals. And how do you do that? Consistent follow-up, right? Just because somebody says not interested today, if I'm on a cold call with them, I'm like, okay, does that mean like not ever, like this doesn't make sense at all? Or do you make these decisions every quarter? Or when do you make a decision about this said product or service, right? And sometimes they'll tell you, hey, we make these decisions every, at the end of the year. Okay, no problem. I'm not going to wait till the end of the year to follow up. I'll follow up with every individual at least once a quarter. And then when it comes time for that individual to look at a product or service and they say, it doesn't fall into my lap, or I don't wait for it to fall into my lap, that's right. But if I'm top of mind for you when that idea comes, you'll tell your procurement team to, hey, check these guys out. There may be something here, right? You'll at least feed that information to them. And then I'm kind of front of line, right? Because I'm top of mind with you. That's how market dominance happens over, 18, 24 months.
Exactly. Yes, I agree. For example, another quick feedback I got is like, for example, when I'm having a conversation, instead of going, how are you? I don't want to waste time because you're interrupting my day. I don't want to talk about myself. I don't mind the pitch. Get straight to the point. Don't waste my time. Tell me what you have to say. Shoot it to me. Say it and get it over. What do you think of that approach?
I agree. I don't use the how are you. I think it creates too much open interpretation, right? There's too much gap there. They're still a little confused on like who you are, right? They're like, who is this? And then you're now asking them, how are you? And it's like, it's really foreign, right? Also, people, tend to be on like this impulse wave, right? So impulses are high when you start the cold call because they're trying to, figure out who you are. They're kind of in this fear mode in a sense, right? At a subconscious level, there's kind of some fear there. So you have to really kind of drive the conversation and get it to where you want it really quickly. So they understand that, hey, okay, I don't know this person. This could be a sales call, cold call, whatever it is. And then you're actually creating space to have a conversation around, ideally. I don't do the how are you? Even sometimes I could call someone and they'll be like, I'm like, hey, this is Justin with X company. And they're like, oh, how are you? I'm like, oh, I'm good. Thanks for asking. And I'll continue on. I won't say, how are you? Right. Just because it just creates too much back and forth for me. Yeah. Once you're into a further part of the script and you've actually, created space to have a real conversation around and they know what's going on, you may bring some of that rapport building, relationship building back into it. That's fine. But I don't think it's the place for it is up front. I don't think that. I agree with that.
Okay. So pretty much wrapping up our little podcast and a nice chat. What is the future of cold calling in your opinion? What are we looking at in the next few years?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. This is something we're spending a lot of time on and really trying to look at. I think the culture of the role itself it has a lot of problems within organizations. I think the whole idea around cold calling has so many problems that people think it's a dying way to market, right? To me, it's not. One-to-one conversations will always be the way. Everybody's trying to go to like a buy button or something like that. It may get to that, but I still think there's going to be, right, in any industry, in any space, there are certain types of people, right? Human behavior is always different. Some people will always want to talk to someone before they buy a product or service. There are people that do massive reviews. They check all the reviews that they can before they buy a product or service. There are people that just impulse buy and say, give it to me as quick as you can, right? So you're always going to be playing with different segments of people, different behaviors of people. I also see that, the next generation may not want to do this type of work, right? Whether you want to call it entitlement or what have you. I just think that the role itself is being looked down upon, when in reality, it's probably one of the most important roles within the whole organization. Because without new biz dev, right, there's no pipeline.
But can we trust these reviews? I mean, all these reviews that are written, can we really trust them? That's the thing.
That's a great question. Yeah.
We need to know.
Exactly.
How can they reach out to you? What is your website?
Yeah, the website is phonereadyleads.com. And usually the best way to reach me would be on LinkedIn. Justin Middleton would be the best way to find me there. That's, I usually spend a little bit of time at the end of each day going through that. That's where I hire all my callers through. We have a lot of attention. We do a live show every single day. So if you want to pick our brain or, provide feedback or, give us a hard time about how we use our strategy, join the live show we do every day. We're open to criticism. We're open to it all. We love it all. And we'll also show you exactly what we do. We lay out our whole playbook. We have really good resources on YouTube. You can go watch our whole process, how it's all laid out, how it works, apply it to your situation, and see if you find some success with it.
I'll definitely come to one of your shows and join. Why not? So
I love it.
Thank you so much, Justin, for your time. Hope you have you like your job, and you seem very passionate about it. So hope to see you again in the future podcast. We'll come up with another topic.
Awesome, Anthony. I appreciate your time, and thanks for thinking of me and bringing me on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Justin, and have a great day.
You too.
You too. Bye.